I am a California native plant horticulturist. I've been in the fields for about 15 years now, and one of the reasons why I started making crepe paper flowers is because I wanted to reproduce some of the beautiful flowers that I'm used to working with. I've been pretty crafty for most of my life. I've done cross stitch when I was younger, and I did like beaded jewelry. It seemed like whatever I was into at the time, that's what I would pick a craft up and do. And quite a few years ago, Lily here had a paper flower poppy, and she showed it to me, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can make one of those. I just need to find a pattern. And that was quite a while ago, and one of the reasons why I started making them is I work at Descanso Gardens, and I do a wildflower display every year, and I kept doing the same thing over and over, and I kind of want to change it up a bit. So I thought, well, maybe I can reproduce these flowers and make a paper flower display and something that will last longer than just a few days. So I found a few books and looked into it and did some YouTubing, and I came up with some patterns and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a demonstration, or actually like a crepe paper 101 for beginners. And I'll get started.
So I'll go ahead and just go through it this way. So crepe paper flower making, of course, requires crepe paper. So most of you are probably familiar with crepe paper streamers, and that's a certain grade of crepe paper, piñatas, different party favors and stuff. So this crepe paper is actually a kind of a specialized crepe paper. There's different grades of it, and I will show all to you. This is more of a finer crepe paper. It's almost transparent, and what's really nice about this crepe paper is it really does mock some of the petals that that I'll show you as we go along. Different grades, so that's great for the petal parts of the flowers. We go into a medium grade, which is a little thicker. And the thing with crepe paper is it's very pliable. So when you have petals that are, cupped or fringed at the ends, you can actually manipulate and bend the crepe paper, and it does a really great job of mimicking flowers. They come in all different colors. There's even silver, gold, if you want to make some other type of crafty stuff with more of a flashy colors. This is a really thick paper, and if you can see, it really does stretch, so you can really manipulate them. I have a larger ones. You can find larger rolls, and I've used this to make extra large flowers that I have on the table over there, and I'll go over with that. It's almost kind of really difficult to source crepe paper. Many craft stores don't carry it anymore, and I think this is kind of a lost art. I've had someone tell me that their mother used to make crepe paper grapes and flowers for their school auditoriums and plays and stuff, and she saw that I made them, and she was really excited because it reminded her of her mom, and she was a little older, so I think it's something that kind of went out of trend, and you don't see it much anymore. So it's kind of difficult to find the crepe paper in stores. I've only came across one packet at Michael's that was in a cardstock packet of squared ones. So I really, you need to go online to source it. I haven't yet to see one in a store. If anybody ever sees this kind of crepe paper in stores, let me know. But usually Amazon, of course. There is one person named Leah Griffith. She's like the crepe paper guru, flower making lady, and I'll talk about her a bit. She has her own line of crepe paper. You can find it on her website, and you can also find hers on Amazon as well. Another source that I found recently was Paper Mart, and some of you vendors may be familiar with Paper Mart. They sell all types of stuff for vending. Anything that you sell, they have it, bags and boxes and tissue paper and all that stuff. So this is where I found some of the larger rolls. And what's nice about Paper Mart is they're fairly inexpensive. Some of these more precise ones that come in packs, they can run, I would say, about $20 for about 6 of them. I found these on Papermart for like $3 a roll. The grade is a little thicker and not as easy to manipulate as some of these other ones, but it still works for like larger flowers and such. So that's your crepe paper, that's your base, of course. And then we're gonna go on to stems. So floral stems, they come in all different sizes as well. Some of the skinnier stems I'll use for the leaves, and some of the larger stems I'll use for the actual stem of the flower. And then there's some really extra large ones of this size. And if you're familiar, if you're a florist or ever worked with bouquets, you'll use these before. I'll use the thicker ones for like the Manila hot poppies that I have up here. Different sizes. And then the next you would need is floral tape. So floral tape, of course, if you're familiar with making bouquets, floral tape is used to bound bouquets together. What it does with the paper flower making is it acts like as an adhesive, so it really bonds the pieces together. And one thing I learned after using it for a while, because I never really used floral tape until I started doing this, is there's a wax on the tape that starts to warm up with your fingertips, so it becomes more sticky as you go along. So as you work it on, it really sticks together. Little things that you think you know, but not until you're actually doing it, you get it. So it comes in all different colors. I use it for different flowers, darker for, say, the leaves and the lighter for stem. If you can even make branched flowers, so cherry blossom, so there's brown, so you can wrap that on the branches part. White, I use white when I make a white sage. So there's so many different varieties out there that you can really, you can make anything. And then of course you need scissors. So you need sharp scissors. I use 2 different sizes. Bigger scissors for the larger cuts, and really smaller scissors when you're really snipping through on petals and more finer leaves. And then I carry a pair of pruners to cut my floral wire with. And then there's some other specialized tools that are out there. This is, I don't know the actual name of it, but this is used to make veins in the paper flower for your leaves. You'll make veining, and there's ways to manipulate the paper to make it look realistic. And then you also use the edge for curling the paper, so curling petals and leaves and stuff. So I kind of like this. I think they use it for sewing. I'm not sure for what, maybe somebody else knows, but this is what I use it for. And other tools, this is just like a needle on, I'm not sure you call it either, but a needle on the intersect, so you poke holes in like certain petals and stuff to go through stems, depending on what you're making. I use clips. So a lot of these, there's different ways to make to get patterns off of them. So sometimes I'll cut out the leaf and I'll place this on top of the crepe paper, and I'll use one of these to keep it in place. It makes it just a lot easier when you're cutting through, and it holds it in place. So these are also used for sewing, if you're keeping fabric together, if you're a quilter, kind of thing. And then of course the glue. So I just use basic Elmer's glue. I love these pins because they're very precise. So I can, put it right where I need it. I can even put one of the stems inside of the tube and bring it out and make a leaf. Super easy. Some people I've watched videos, they just use a big, large glue tub, but I find it kind of hard to actually control. Some people use hot glue guns. I'm not a huge fan that you can use that won't burn as quickly. What I do use glue guns for, though, is for the larger flowers, because there's so much paper there that I really need it to bond, and I can actually put my hands around the paper without burning it because there's so much of the paper. But when I'm making really small flowers, it's kind of hard for me to use it. So I'll use the Elmer's glue. The one downside of using Elmer's glue is certain points you have to wait for it to dry, because you are using paper, so when paper gets wet, it gets flimsy and it rips. So there's certain points, but depending on what flower I'm making, I'll need to put certain pieces of flowers aside and let it dry for, say, half an hour or so. So that's the downside of the Elmer's glue. The upside of the hot glue gun is it dries instantly and I can keep going through the flower. And so those are your basic tools you need. So some of these things you have already if you really want to get into paper flower making. I brought a few books that I started with. This one's called Flowersmith. If you want to come take a look at these when I'm done, you can flip through them. Really cool work. These people make some amazing realistic looking flowers. I haven't gone all the way through. Let me find like a really nice design, like gardenias. I mean, there's just, from afar, it looks like a real flower. I started with native flowers, so I'm working my way up. What I really like to make is an antique rose. Something like this requires 100 petals. So that's cutting 100 petals and then gluing 100 petals, and it takes a long time. But what I'll do is I'll cut them out and I'll just binge watch TV and I'll just sit there and glue away. So it's a craft I can do while I'm doing other things. I think that's partially why I like it too. I get two things done at once. There's also another tool you can use if you're familiar with the Cricut machine. The Cricut machine is a cutting machine that you can use on all different crafts. It's amazing. I actually ended up buying one for myself. There's patterns that you can have there, and that it'll cut all the petals for you. So if I ever get around to one of those roses, I'm using my machine to do it because my hands can get really cramped after a while. So that's it. This is the book from Leah Griffiths. So she's like the guru. Look her up. If you're really into this, she has really great demo videos. She has a website. She has videos on YouTube. She sells her stuff everywhere. She has really easy to follow instructions. And this is from some of the packs I bought. So she'll sell a whole pack, different colors for you to make all these different flowers. And then she gives you a bonus pattern. So I see the patterns are just like any other kind of sewing pattern, but all different petals. So this one's a hydrangea bloom. So you can imagine with the hydrangea, these are all your miniature little petals that you're gonna glue onto stems. And then the leaves. So those are kind of neat. We have poppies, we have hibiscus, there's all different types. Seta flower. I figured it was fitting because it's the holidays. I haven't made one before, so this is the first for me. What I like is once I start a new flower and complete it, I'm just so amazed at how nice it looks. I sit there like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. But, so I'm gonna walk you through step by step on how I make a point set of flowers. It's easier for me to sit because I'm better I can get around easier, but I'll make sure to bring them up to you. So one thing about the crepe paper is there's lines in crepe paper. So one really a cool thing about it is that it really does mimic veins and leaves and petals. So when you're cutting, kind of hard to see. When you're cutting, there's a certain angle that you cut with, and some of these patterns actually it will show the grain. It'll have the lines on there, so you know which way to face the grain. When I first started, I just cut a poppy up and I had it all different. I was just making it from a video and I had it in all different ways. I had the grain in different ways and it just didn't, it looked cool. I liked it because first thing I made. I would encourage you to jump in and do it. If you're really interested in it, go for it. One nice thing about crepe paper is it's also very pliable, so it leaves a lot of room to make mistakes and cover up your mistakes. And you can always glue things down and mold it together and you can make it work. So the way I make these little buds is I get a piece of floral wire. I don't have my pliers here, but I make a little knob at the end, and this is very basic. I get tissue paper, any kind of tissue paper. It could be a tissue, it could be a napkin. It's just your filler for inside of here. So it could even be a cotton, whatever you could imagine to fill up. I go ahead and put glue around the tip of it, and then I just fold it up and wrap it around and just wrap around till I form a ball. Really simple. The glue adheres and goes through the tissue paper, so just quick little ball. And then I get a kind of a oval shape of the crepe paper, and what you do is you bend it. So to see how crepe paper is very pliable, it springs around like a little kind of hat. And I fill the inside with glue. I just kind of go around in a circle to fill the whole cup. And then I wrap that around my tissue and I bring it together with all my fingers. Like I said, it's very pliable. I just squish. A lot of squishing involved in different parts of making these flowers. So you can see it's just a quick ball. And then from there, you get your floral tape. So you're gonna use floral tape almost every step that you're making these flowers. I bring it around the base, and when you're using floral tape, you wanna get a good start. So you wrap a few times around and you really get that floral tape warmed up with your fingers so it sticks together. And it's like a twisting motion. So I bring my fingers around and twist around the stem. And I keep going. And when I first started, I had a little trouble with this. So you're gonna work at your own pace and have some patience. And I'm just gonna bring it around to about this point, because I don't need to go down the whole wire, because you're not gonna see the whole wire. I'm gonna cover that with another part of the flower. So I've pre-made 5 of them. So from here, I'm gonna bring a bunch together. I'm gonna get my floral tape again. And I'm gonna do basically the same thing I did with the single wire, but just with 5 together. So I'm gonna wrap that around and go around to, the more I do it, the faster I get, which is nice. Just around to the base of the other floral tape that I did on the rest. So I have a bunch now. And what's nice, you're using these floral wires, so you can bend these all around and really manipulate all these stems. When you're making flowers, you can manipulate it to where the petals are closed and some are open. If you're making a bouquet, to make it look more realistic, you can really mold them and shape them into your own way, your own creative imagination. So that's the center here. The next step, I pre-cut all these so I didn't have to sit here in front of you and cut every single one of these. So what the actual leaf of the poinsettia is two halves. And if you can see, the grain is this way and that way. And so what I do is I glue one part of the petal onto the floral wire. And again, I use this really skinny one for the leaves. And then on the other side, I'm gonna go ahead and glue, just basic putting the glue down. Then adding my other petal, leaf petal. Yeah, right. I'm just gonna glue it down. And sometimes you'll have an overlap. So they've kind of crossed at the top. You just do a simple snip and just go ahead and fix it. So I did that 3 times. Gather mine here. Make sure I have them all. So for the poinsettia, there are 2 different sizes. You're gonna have the inner leaves and then you're gonna have the outer leaves. So it's basically the same shape, just a little larger. So from here, I'm gonna take my center and I'm going to put one of the leaves at the base. I'm gonna get my floral tape and wrap around at the base of the wire so you don't see the wire. And even with the poinsettia, even if the wire is sticking out, the leaves cover up everything, so even if it's there, not covered, it's fine. It's very forgiving. So I put my first petal, and then I'm going to put the petals kind of opposite of each other, right? If it could be opposite with threes. And I'm just gonna lay it right on the other side. Hold it down in place. Just wrap again. I wrap about 2-3 times. Make sure it's secure. Then I'll go ahead and get my third petal. And I made some pre-cuts, so I had some darker red and some lighter red. So I'm gonna be exact here. This is lighter. I'm gonna put the one that matches with it. So you just put that on the other opposite side there and wrap it around again a few times. And then I'm going to keep going with my larger petal, and I'm going to, so now we have the 3. So I'm going to put it right in the center of the others. And I'm going to bring it just a little lower so it's not up at the base. So I would say about 1/2 inch lower. And I'm going to turn. Then I'm going to get my second and position it. Turn again 2-3 times. And then I'll go ahead and get my third. Make sure I put it in the right spot. Twist a few times. So there's the red leaves. And then now I have already pre-put together the green leaves. So if you're making a poinsettia, you know how they have, some have many colored leaves of, you know, the red or the pink or the white. You can make as many leaves as you want if you really want to make a full one. I just did one with 6 for today. And I don't know if you want to see me twisting for half an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and put the leaves right underneath in the same type of pattern, kind of in between. And two, if I misplace it, I can just bend it in place. So it's very forgiving. So I'm going to twist around. Twist. And I get the last one in there. And that's my last leaf I'm going to add. So I'm going to go ahead and cover all the floral wire down to the base to create a stem. And when you get to the end, I usually mold the end of the floral wire with my fingers. Just try to get it so it stays in place. You can put a little dab of glue on the end so it doesn't unravel, but you could. So there's the poinsettia. I'm going to position it. And what I'm also going to do before I show you is I am going to curl up some of the edges of the leaves to give it more of a realistic look. So this is where the kind of magic happens with the crepe paper. You just twist and pull. Depending on what kind of flower you make, you follow the design of the petal. But when you start doing this, then it gets that real realistic look. It doesn't have just that 2D look, it has a 3D look. So I'm just going around and I am tugging different places. With the poinsettia, it doesn't really matter. They have the really pretty ones that have the ripples on the sides. You can actually really go for it if you want. I'm gonna twist. And I'm gonna do the same with the leaves. And I'm gonna bend the leaves back a little bit. So it's very, very forgiving. And there you go, got a poinsettia. And this is the one I made earlier. So I made it look really quick, but they are time consuming. I did cut out some white ones. I don't know how much time I had today, but do a white one. You could do any color, you could do gold, any type of, you can create a way. And I'll go ahead and show you, have a few more minutes. I'll show you some of the other quick demo copy. So paper white was really fun for me because I haven't done a bulb yet. And as you can see, very realistic. These are different leaves. So for this one, it's a simple leaf. I bent it in half. I put glue down the base and laid in the wire and let it dry. And for the actual flowers, they are 3 petals. I didn't bring the pattern with me. but they're kind of oblong, and I poke a hole in the middle and I bring it around the cup of the stem. So there's all different methods and different, depending on what flowers you do. But I really like making this one because I love paper whites. I even like the way they smell. I know some people aren't that crazy about the smell. But and then so this is a California poppy. That was the inspiration. I made these ones to look more realistic, like the actual size of a poppy. But of course I have some extra large ones over there. I started making the smaller ones, like I said, for the wildflower display. And then it just kept going, and I started doing the extra large ones for bigger displays. I thought it'd be kind of fun to do for selfie spots and stuff like that, because, you know, everybody wants to take a selfie. So that's it. That's all my time. If you want to take a look, I have some for sale if you need last minute gifts. It's nice because she has pets, so she can't have poinsettias at home. A great alternative. Yeah, and they're going to last forever. Pack them up for next year and then bring them out. One thing about them too is you don't want to get them wet because it's crepe paper. So I've noticed the different grades of crepe paper, the cheaper ones, they stain easier. Some of these other finer grade ones, it takes a little more water, but you still don't want to get water on them. And you don't want to put them in direct sunlight because they can get bleached. But I find that I'll put them away, they'll get smashed. But what I do is I'll just bring them back up and like flip them back up and stretch them, and I can bring them back to life. Those large ones have traveled and they've been used quite a few times, so they're kind of on their way out. I can't really poof them up as much anymore. But and yeah, that's paper flower making.